The universe whispers in ways most cannot hear. Some souls awaken to truths that others overlook, drawn into a path that feels both mysterious and undeniable. These are the chosen ones, not for glory or reward, but for a responsibility far greater than themselves. They carry a subtle energy, a frequency attuned to guidance beyond the ordinary. Being chosen is never about privilege. It is about alignment, walking a path where the unseen gently nudges, challenges quietly arise, and signs appear in the everyday. A simple glance, a repeated number, a feeling that cannot be explained. These are not coincidences. They are threads of a larger design, weaving the chosen into a tapestry of purpose. In this video, you will discover how divine exposure works. You will learn how subtle moments reveal hidden truths, how awareness can transform confusion into clarity, and how every challenge carries a lesson the world often hides. We will explore ancient wisdom from Shaolin teachings, revealing how discipline, stillness, and reflection illuminate the path of the chosen. You will hear stories of those who walked unseen paths, faced trials in silence, and emerged aligned with a higher purpose. Insights that rarely reach the surface will guide you to recognize signs in your own life and respond with wisdom instead of fear. Stay with this journey until the end, for each moment carries a key to awakening your understanding and deepening your presence. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire, where ancient truths meet personal mastery. Subscribe now to join this path and allow your spirit to align with the forces quietly shaping your destiny. There are moments when life strips away the layers we have built so carefully, and the world appears sharper, almost uncomfortably clear. These moments are not punishments, they are awakenings. God's exposing is a quiet force, revealing what has been hidden, not to shame, but to illuminate. It brings into focus patterns we cannot see, shadows we refuse to acknowledge, and potential that has remained dormant, waiting for recognition. A young disciple once came to the master, frustrated and afraid, convinced that his struggles were curses meant to break him. The master simply guided him to observe, to look at the unrest within without judgment. Slowly, the disciple began to see each challenge, each mistake, each moment of discomfort was a mirror, reflecting the parts of himself he had ignored. In that reflection lay a subtle invitation to transform, to grow, to awaken. Divine exposure works the same way. It unveils the unnoticed habits, the suppressed emotions, and the unresolved tensions that shape our choices. It may appear as a confrontation with fear, loss, or failure, but beneath it is a sacred truth. The world is revealing itself as it truly is, and in seeing it clearly we see ourselves. Shaolin teachings remind us to meet reality without illusion. To face the truth of our own nature, unvarnished and raw, is the path to mastery. Just as the master does not shield the disciple from truth, God's exposure does not hide the deeper lessons behind the surface. Each moment of revelation is a door, and each door opens to understanding, resilience, and untapped power within. The awakening comes not in comfort, but in the quiet recognition of what has been waiting patiently for us to notice. There is a quiet power in watching without reacting, in noticing without judgment. Life constantly unfolds layers of truth, yet most pass through them unseeing, distracted by the noise of habit and desire. True discipline begins with attention, not to control but to understand. Mindfulness is the lens through which the hidden patterns of our lives come into focus. Long ago, a Shaolin student sat by the river, watching the currents shift and swirl. The master asked him, "What do you see?" The student described the movement, the ripples, the floating leaves. The master shook his head gently. "You see only what passes quickly. Watch without thought. Watch the river as it is, and then turn that vision inward." The student learned that observation was a practice, not a momentary glance. In the same way, observing the inner landscape, the thoughts, impulses, and emotions requires the same discipline. Each sensation, each fleeting feeling is a signal, a messenger from the deeper self. Shaolin tradition teaches that mastery of the self begins with mastery of observation. To act without awareness is to wander blind. To pause and witness is to plant the seed of understanding. Daily life offers infinite opportunities for this practice. When anger arises, notice its origin. When fear whispers, trace its shape. When joy blooms, let it be fully felt without clinging. The outer world reflects the inner, and by observing both with calm, steady attention, the mind learns the rhythm of truth. Awareness becomes the compass, guiding choices, revealing blind spots, and illuminating potential. Discipline is not rigidity, it is the patient cultivation of presence, the steady training of the eye inward and outward, until every action arises from clarity rather than impulse. In this space, mastery begins, not as a distant goal, but as a lived reality, quietly unfolding with each mindful breath. In the quiet of night, the mind often reveals what the daylight hides. Shadows rise from the depths, fears, regrets, unspoken desires, and impulses that have long been denied. Exposure is the lantern that illuminates these corners, not to punish, but to guide. When the light falls upon what was hidden, it can startle or discomfort, yet within this revelation lies the possibility of transformation. A Shaolin master once observed a student struggling with anger and envy. The student wished to banish these feelings, believing them unworthy of attention. The master placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You cannot destroy the shadow without dimming the light that casts it. Only by seeing it, understanding it, and moving through it, can you become whole." The student learned that true inner mastery is not avoidance but integration. The shadow carries wisdom. It points to wounds, unmet needs, and hidden strength. To acknowledge it is to reclaim the parts of the self that were lost or ignored. Light and shadow exist not as opposites, but as companions. Each brings clarity to the other. Shaolin teachings emphasize the delicate balance between compassion and discernment. Compassion allows the shadow to be met without judgment, softening its grip and fostering understanding. Discernment guides the response, ensuring that recognition of darkness does not lead to harm or indulgence. Through this balance, one learns to navigate exposure with grace, transforming challenges into lessons and obstacles into insight. Walking this path is a practice of patience. The mind will resist, the heart may fear, but with steady observation and disciplined reflection, the shadow becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. Light emerges naturally when the hidden is acknowledged, integrated, and respected. In this interplay, mastery unfolds, not in perfection, but in the quiet acceptance of all that is within, allowing the whole self to move with clarity, wisdom, and purpose. Amid the storm of life, the mind often races, chasing outcomes, reacting to events, and clinging to fleeting emotions. Yet the moments of greatest revelation arrive not in noise, but in stillness. Calm observation becomes a sanctuary, a space where divine exposure can be met without fear or resistance. Within that quiet, clarity rises like dawn through mist. A Shaolin disciple once sat in the courtyard as chaos swirled around him. Students arguing, winds rattling the roof, and the river nearby roaring after a storm. The master approached and said, "See the world as it is, but do not let it disturb the water within your mind. Let it settle, and the stones beneath will appear." The disciple learned that stillness is not escape, but presence. It allows one to witness reality fully, understanding the lessons embedded in each disturbance. Meditation and mindful breathing are the tools that anchor this practice. Each breath becomes a rhythm, a guide back to the center. By observing thoughts without judgment, the mind disentangles from illusion and distraction. Challenges no longer provoke panic or despair. They become mirrors reflecting areas of growth and hidden potential. The chaos outside no longer dictates the state within. Stillness is not passive. It is a form of disciplined engagement. It sharpens awareness, aligns action with insight, and reveals the subtle patterns that guide decisions. Shaolin masters teach that the true battle is rarely against others, but against the restlessness within. When the mind rests in calm observation, divine messages emerge with clarity. The underlying wisdom behind trials is seen, and the path forward becomes visible. In cultivating stillness amidst chaos, the disciple discovers a quiet power, the ability to move through life fully awake, grounded, and attuned to the lessons that each moment, no matter how turbulent, brings. When truth is revealed, it often comes with a test, an invitation to act, to respond, and to choose. Divine exposure uncovers hidden patterns and vulnerabilities, and how one responds defines the measure of mastery. Ethical grounding becomes the compass, guiding actions with clarity, wisdom, and responsibility. Without it, insight can become a tool of harm rather than transformation. A Shaolin master once watched a student discover a secret about a rival's misdeeds. The student felt anger and temptation to act. The master said, "Knowledge without virtue is a storm without shelter. Hold your mind steady, speak with honesty, and act with courage. Let integrity be the bridge between seeing and doing." The student learned that self-mastery is inseparable from ethical clarity. Awareness alone is not enough. It must be paired with moral discipline. Integrity, honesty, and moral courage are the pillars that support this practice. Integrity allows one to align actions with values even when faced with pressure or fear. Honesty ensures that revelations are acknowledged without distortion or denial, cultivating trust within oneself and with others. Moral courage grants the strength to act rightly, even when consequences are uncertain. Each of these qualities shapes the way one navigates exposure, transforming potential chaos into constructive growth. Ethical anchoring protects both the self and those touched by the revelation. Acting without reflection can perpetuate harm, while disciplined virtue allows lessons to unfold safely and meaningfully. Ancient Shaolin wisdom reminds that the path of mastery is not only inward but relational. The strength of the spirit is measured by how it moves through the world, balancing insight with compassion, power with restraint. Through ethical anchoring, the challenges revealed by divine exposure become a crucible for refinement, forging not only understanding but a resilient, disciplined, and wise presence capable of enduring any trial. When revelations stir the heart, the mind often tightens, grasping at outcomes, fearing loss, or seeking control. Exposure tests the capacity to remain steady, to witness without being swept away. Detachment is not indifference. It is the discipline of the mind to observe clearly while keeping the heart balanced. It is the space where true resilience is forged. A Shaolin novice once received news of betrayal within the temple. Anger and confusion surged, demanding immediate action. The master guided him to sit by the quiet pond, to watch the ripples as they spread and settled. "Do not act from the storm," the master said. "See what is, not what you fear or hope it to be. Let your mind return to stillness before choosing the path forward." Slowly, the novice learned that non-reactivity allows discernment. By stepping back, he could perceive the deeper currents behind the event, responding wisely rather than impulsively. Shaolin teachings emphasize acting without attachment to outcomes. The focus is on integrity, intention, and clarity, not on controlling how the world will unfold. When the mind is untethered from fear or desire, decisions arise from presence rather than reaction. Emotional turbulence may appear, yet in detachment, it no longer dictates behavior. Non-reactivity protects both self and others. Impulsive responses can deepen conflict or create unnecessary suffering, while calm observation creates space for thoughtful action. Each moment of exposure becomes an opportunity to practice restraint, patience, and disciplined awareness. In this way, the inner warrior is strengthened, not through aggression or control, but through the quiet mastery of the self. Detachment does not remove responsibility, it refines it, allowing each action to emerge from wisdom rather than compulsion, revealing the subtle power that lies in balanced, deliberate presence. In the stillness that follows revelation, the mind seeks meaning. Reflection becomes the quiet path through which understanding deepens. Sitting with thoughts, recording them on paper, or speaking silently into the heart allows insights to settle, revealing patterns that are often missed in the rush of daily life. These practices, journaling, prayer, silent contemplation, are not mere routines, they are gateways to clarity and wisdom. A young disciple once received guidance he could not fully grasp. Confused and restless, he wandered the temple grounds until the master suggested he sit quietly each evening and listen to his own thoughts. At first, his mind resisted, filling the silence with doubt. Yet over time, as he wrote, pondered, and observed, the messages became clearer. He began to recognize connections between his experiences, his choices, and the unseen currents shaping his path. Reflection transformed confusion into insight. Through inner dialogue, intuition strengthens. By confronting questions honestly and observing responses without judgment, the mind cultivates discernment. Patterns emerge, hidden motives surface, and understanding deepens, not only of the self, but of the forces guiding life. Shaolin wisdom teaches that mastery begins within. To comprehend the divine plan, one must first understand the self, for the inner world mirrors the outer. Each thought examined, each feeling acknowledged, becomes a thread woven into a broader tapestry of awareness. Reflective practice is a disciplined engagement with the present and the past, creating space for lessons to be internalized. It transforms fleeting revelations into lasting understanding. In this quiet work, the mind becomes both observer and participant, learning to interpret the subtle signs of life. Personal mastery arises naturally when reflection guides action, intuition informs decisions, and the inner dialogue aligns with the deeper currents of purpose. Through this deliberate attention, the path forward emerges with clarity, patience, and unwavering insight. In the quiet after revelation, the mind seeks to understand. Thoughts rise like waves, each carrying fragments of insight or doubt. Reflection becomes the bridge between fleeting awareness and deep understanding. Journaling, prayer, or silent contemplation offers a space to gather these pieces, to watch them settle, and to perceive patterns that often go unnoticed in the busyness of life. These practices are not merely rituals, they are instruments of clarity, training the mind to listen to its own wisdom. A Shaolin student once struggled to comprehend the lessons behind repeated challenges. The master suggested he sit each evening with pen and paper, recording each thought, feeling, and dream. At first, the student resisted, finding the exercise tedious, yet gradually a rhythm emerged. The written words revealed connections he had not seen, subtle guidance embedded in everyday experiences. Silent contemplation allowed him to hear his own intuition, a voice quiet yet persistent, pointing toward choices aligned with his highest path. Reflection strengthens discernment. By observing thoughts and emotions without judgment, one cultivates a clarity that guides action. Each moment of introspection is an invitation to see beyond surface appearances, to recognize the deeper currents shaping life. Shaolin wisdom teaches that mastery begins within. Understanding the self, the shadows, the impulses, the hidden strengths, creates a mirror for understanding the divine plan. Inner dialogue transforms confusion into insight, hesitation into purposeful action, and fleeting inspiration into enduring wisdom. Through this practice, personal mastery unfolds naturally. The mind becomes both witness and participant, learning to interpret the signs of life with precision and patience. Each insight nurtures resilience, each reflection sharpens intuition, and the steady work of contemplation aligns the self with the greater flow of purpose. In the quiet dialogue of reflection, the path forward reveals itself, clear, deliberate, and infused with understanding. When life reveals hidden truths, the impulse is often to act immediately, to correct, to fix, to control. Yet divine exposure is not a call to panic, it is a guide. The energy behind revelation is subtle, inviting reflection before movement, patience before reaction. Rushed action may obscure insight, while calm alignment allows clarity to direct each step. A Shaolin novice once received troubling news that demanded attention. Anxiety surged, urging immediate decisions. The master advised, "Sit in stillness. Let the mind see the path before the body moves." To act without understanding is to cut the thread before it is woven. The novice obeyed, observing his thoughts, emotions, and surroundings with care. In the quiet, the proper course became visible, not forced but emerging naturally from a grounded awareness. Aligned action flows from inner stillness. When the mind is steady, intuition becomes reliable, discernment sharpens, and decisions carry purpose rather than reaction. Shaolin wisdom teaches that timing is as important as effort. A blow struck too soon loses strength. A step taken before the path is clear may lead astray. Patience does not signify hesitation. It is a form of discipline, a trust in the rhythm of cause and effect, and a recognition that each moment contains the opportunity for correct action. Exposure illuminates the way, but it does not demand frantic motion. By pausing, breathing, and tuning inward, one allows understanding to crystallize. Action then becomes precise, potent, and harmonious with the unfolding of life. This is the essence of mastery, responding from insight rather than impulse, moving from alignment rather than fear, and embracing patience as the quiet power that shapes results. In this balance, challenges transform into opportunities, and each step reflects the wisdom of presence and the skill of disciplined awareness. The lessons revealed through exposure are never only for the self. Each insight, each challenge, carries the potential to awaken not just the individual, but the world around them. The ultimate purpose of revelation is growth, healing, and the deepening of understanding, a journey that transforms struggle into wisdom and silence into clarity. A Shaolin master once spoke to a student who had endured many trials. "The path is never yours alone," he said. "What you learn must ripple outward, touching those who walk beside you." True mastery is measured not in triumphs over fear, but in the ability to act with wisdom, compassion, and clarity. The student realized that each moment of insight was an invitation to serve, to become a conduit of understanding and guidance. Chosen ones carry a responsibility. Their awareness is not a private treasure, but a tool to elevate others. Every action, word, and intention becomes a reflection of the lessons they have integrated. Shaolin teachings emphasize that personal mastery is inseparable from contribution. The mind disciplined in stillness, the heart tempered in compassion, and the spirit aligned with purpose all converge in service. Awareness brings discernment, allowing one to act decisively yet gently. It is the quiet power behind choices that transform tension into opportunity, fear into courage, and conflict into understanding. In this space, mastery is revealed not as control over circumstances, but as the capacity to respond with balance, integrity, and insight. Through disciplined observation, reflection, and ethical action, the chosen emerge as vessels of higher purpose. The path of awakening is both inward and outward, growing in depth while extending in reach. In honoring the lessons of divine exposure, one cultivates a life where insight, compassion, and wisdom flow naturally, leaving a legacy that uplifts, heals, and inspires, illuminating the path for those who follow. The moments of divine exposure are invitations, not punishments. They call us to awaken, to see clearly, and to move with intention. Mastery is found not in rushing or resisting, but in awareness, discipline, reflection, and ethical action. Shaolin wisdom reminds us to observe deeply, integrate what is revealed, and respond from a place of calm stillness. True growth emerges in balance between shadow and light, patience and action, ego and purpose. Each challenge, each revelation becomes a step on the path toward greater clarity and inner strength. By embracing these lessons, we align with a higher purpose, becoming instruments of guidance, understanding, and compassion in the world. Let these principles guide your daily life. Pause, reflect, and act from a place of calm insight. Notice the subtle lessons in every moment and allow them to shape your thoughts, choices, and actions. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May your path be steady, your mind clear, and your spirit aligned. If this message resonates, please like this video and subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire so we can continue exploring ancient wisdom and the path of inner mastery together.